Hi everybody, it's Nick. A bit self-conscious today actually, because I've been wanting to do this vlog for the last 2 days and I haven't had a minute. I haven't had really a minute to do it for some bizarre reason. And I actually do have a minute now, although I'm sat in my car on a very busy road and it's quite awkward because there's lots of people walking past me. I'm a bit self-conscious, but anyway, I'll crack on. So, latest and greatest on the menopause, and I think it's been hugely groundbreaking for me this week to join some dots. So the best way to describe what's happened to me over the last few months is 2 parallel train tracks. And I've been reading, or have read, the book written by Lisa I can't pronounce the second name. I think it's Mosconi, which is Mosconi. I will put the link to her TED talk and the name of her book in the comments below. But that was step 1, and that really enlightened me about the relationship between our hormones and neurology, our brain, because she's a neurologist and she's doing some really in-depth research into what she calls 3 Ps, which are puberty, pregnancy and perimenopause, and what happens to our brain. And what she explains is that the relationship between our hormones and brains has been vastly misunderstood, not understood at all, completely ignored almost since the beginning of time really, and that it makes perfect sense that there is such a close and critical relationship between our brains, for example, and our ovaries, which is kind of like the housing of all of our hormones, because without our ovaries we cannot reproduce, and therefore we wouldn't have a human species. So it makes perfect sense. It's very logical the way she explains it, that right back to caveman, cavewoman days, of course it's a really big deal about our ovaries and brains talking to each other all the time, because that's what made sure that we actually existed as a human species, because that's how our reproduction works. But she has discovered that there's this thing called brain fatigue that happens during perimenopause, and it just to simplify, I mean, I think the book's excellent and a very easy read, but basically the relevant parts of our brain are not getting fired in the way that it should get fired, as particularly our estrogen drops, but also there's all kinds of hormones, there's insulin, our thyroid's in there, all kinds of things, and it's this very highly tuned orchestra that gets all out of tune when we're in the perimenopause. The good news is that the brain scans she's been looking at show that when we get the other side of the menopause, when we kind of get over the hill, our brains actually can become in fact more alert and more sharp than before. So there is definitely hope. But for the first time that I've read, she actually talks about the impact. She brings serotonin into the equation, and she talks a lot about where our low moods and our anxiety and our sadness and low self-esteem all comes into the mix, because actually our brain is not working in the way that it should with the drop in estrogen. And there's a lot of research out there now showing that the combination of specific HRTs and specific antidepressants are actually showing some really, really good groundbreaking results in perimenopausal women, of which I'm one. So that's really interesting, because for the past few weeks I have had a HRT implant in, which is definitely starting to work. I've had my bloods done, and my estrogen levels and my testosterone levels have increased significantly. And I've also been taking a specific antidepressant, and within 48 hours of taking that, which was several weeks ago, I have vlogged about that in another one, I felt enormously better. And what I would say is that my motivation and my energy levels are really so much better. But the thing that was happening, so the 2 train tracks really are, if you like, my mind, my mood, my engagement in life, my emotional state, all of that was definitely better with the combination of the HRT and the antidepressants. But my body, the physical side, was really starting to suffer. So I knew I was carrying huge amounts of fluid because my ankles and my wrists and my hands, I'm just really podgy. You can still see it in my face actually, there's a lot of fluid. So I knew I was carrying a lot of fluid. I've put on nearly 3 stone in weight, so I'm really big. And all of my joints, particularly my knees and my lower back, really hurting me. And I went to see my, I can never say this right, can I? My endocrinologist this week, who is just superb at joining all of the dots. So he had a full range of blood results in front of him. Before he looked at the blood results, basically he talked to me about my symptoms, and that's where we came to this. You know, we've got 2 train tracks here. We've got my emotional and mental well-being, which is definitely being helped by the HRT and the antidepressants. Then we've got stuff that's happening physically. And what happened is, many moons ago when I first went to see him, he didn't go near HRT for the first 6 months with me, because he said the big thing for me was I was insulin resistant. So insulin resistance is when basically your cells are a little bit kind of deaf to the insulin, and so that can manifest in a lot of fluid retention, a lot of weight gain, a lot of craving for, you know, significant carb heavy and sugars. And when I went through my symptoms with him, he said, you know, because my estrogen had basically hit rock bottom before I'd had my implant, my insulin is the bully in the playground, and it's just been absolutely running riot. And I knew this. I think I intuitively knew this. And the reason that my knees and my lower back in particular are hurting is because the fluid has to go somewhere. And in particular, when I get up in the morning, I'm saying to him, you know, I feel like I'm 6 months pregnant. I've got a really round, very solid tummy. I'm walking up the stairs and I am really huffing and puffing. I'm really huffing and puffing. I mean, I still do exercise and stuff, so I don't think I'm that unfit. And it's because there's actually not enough room for my diaphragm to fully go up and down properly, because I've got so much fluid in my body. And in the mornings, the reason I've got this very solid, round tummy is because I've been laid down. And all the fluid's gone up to my tummy, and then as I stand up and start moving around, it then goes down to my legs, and it's gone into my joints, which is why they're so painful, because that's where the fluid is. And that's just because I've increased my estrogen, that is not enough. The insulin now has just run riot. The insulin's wild. He's having she, I don't think it's gender specific, whatever it is having a wonderful time. And so we have to, we've made a plan to basically hit the insulin quite hard. So I have gone back on my insulin medication, which I was on a few years ago, which worked brilliantly actually. And also I've had to go on to some medication to help get rid of all of this fluid, and really, because it's a bit of a vicious circle, because of course I put on so much weight, there's more cells, there's more cells craving more energy, craving more insulin in me. So the bigger you get, the bigger I get, the worse the problem gets, and the estrogen's just not strong enough to deal with it. So, you know, it needs an intervention. And it was really interesting because when he went through my blood results, it was all there in black and white, and it was really comforting. It was actually incredibly comforting to see there in the science what was happening. So you can see that my liver has got much more fat around it than it should have. You can see my cholesterol has got a lot worse. You can, you know, see with my weight. He did quite a few tests on me. You could see the fluid everywhere. My blood pressure was up. My yeah, so many things. It was all there in the science. And basically he's saying, yeah, you know, we really have to get on top of the insulin. That's what we have to absolutely do. So it was interesting that there's, and this is what came out of the conversation with him, and this is why I keep going on about the fact I just think every single woman approaching the menopause should have access to an endocrinologist and the full array of blood tests, because, you know, if you've got a bad heart, right, you go and see a cardiologist, and I think an endocrinologist, or however you say it, I know I'm saying it wrong, is one of the few people that actually looks across the disciplines and joins all of these dots. So I now have, I'm still feeling massive, I'm still feeling very bloated, and I've still got joint pain because I've only been on my new plan for 48 hours. So it's only working 48 hours. It's going to take a few weeks, but I cannot tell you how much better I feel seeing the reality, seeing the science, that says this is what's happening in my body, and having a specialist talk me through all of these various aspects. But insulin is our largest hormone. Insulin resistance can be hereditary. I suspect I've always had it, and certainly at the start, when I started becoming perimenopausal, at the start it was really bad. It was the thing that my menopause consultant focused on solely for 6 months, and then I went on to HRT. So that it's just such a weight off my mind that I now have a plan, and I'm not going to have this pain. I mean, the pain's been significant. I mean, even just bending over has been really, really difficult. So it's wonderful, and I'm hugely blessed and grateful, but I'm really frustrated that we are still living in a world where the menopause is multifaceted, and it's very, very unique to each woman, and most women do not have access to the level of expertise we all need access to be able to live a good quality of life, to be able to stay mobile, to be able to stay fit, to be able to stay happy, to be able to keep our mental health in check, to be able to I'm 52, not 82. I shouldn't be creaking and aching and huffing and puffing going up the stairs, but it makes perfect sense when my consultant talks to me about why it is, and therefore what I can do about it. So I thought it was really, really interesting sharing that. So I think again, it comes back to the sophisticated approach of the menopause and how it touches all parts of our biology, and it's multidiscipline, which is where I think we are dropping the ball as a society, because medical and the NHS is very much set up on disciplines. We look at this part of the body, we look at this part of the body. With menopause, we need to look at all parts of the mind and the body. So that's it. That's the greatest and latest. So I will let you know how I do on my new medication for managing my insulin, and take it from there. Okay, lots of love. Thanks for listening. Bye.